Garbo never again appeared on screen. Shrouded in her own mystery, her image was frozen in time to preserve it intact, an ageless icon of a more glamorous era. Garbo took up her alter ego, the recluse about town. Obsessive about her privacy, she acted swiftly when accounts of her life appeared in books by Mercedes da Costa and Cecil Beaton. Both were cut out of a decreasing circle of friends.
Garbo had very few friends, or had very few people that she could communicate with, so she actually kept her opinions and perhaps her grudges or her disappointments of portrayal to herself. And I think they worked on her. I think she felt disappointed, by and large, with humanity.
Garbo definitely perceived both Cecil Beaton and Mercedes da Costa's books as betrayals. I think it was one thing to record something witty that she said at the dinner table, and another thing to record personal confidences.
He realized that he was doing the ultimate betrayal. And what he actually published was a relatively harmless transcript of some of the diaries about the affair. I mean, any physical details, those were not published.
Though his account of that affair was hardly sensational, it was years before Garbo would relent. Urged by Sam Green, she agreed to meet Beaton at his country home where he was recovering from a stroke.
He was crippled and sitting in his living room, and his secretary led us up, and he was crying, and she just sat on his lap. It was the cutest thing you can imagine, and gave him a big kiss. They did love each other, and she did forgive him.
He was so frail that she was prepared to overlook it, at any rate, at that time. But after that last meeting, she made it absolutely clear she didn't want to ever see him again.
His assistant told me that Garbo had said to her, "You see how he is? I could never have married him, seeing him like that."
If Garbo felt she'd squandered her relationships and her talent over the years, she showed little sign of it. But towards the end of her life, she would occasionally let the veil slip.
I think the beginning of her life, she was a lot happier than toward the end, which I think is a shame. She didn't feel well in her own skin. You know what I mean? She just, she felt at all times the brakes were on for some reason, you know? She couldn't let herself go. Well, that's a pretty terrible thing to happen to anyone.
Garbo and Salka and I, we were all having a wonderful time, and Salka said to Garbo, "Well, Grusha, what are you doing today?" And Garbo looked at her and she said, "I walk. That's what I do. I walk."
Greta Garbo had starred in 28 films, her last at the age of only 36. She lived alone in her New York apartment for over 30 years until her death at the age of 84. Whether created by the studio or fostered by Garbo herself, she'd played the role of Greta Garbo to the end.
Her reputation rests on scenes rather than films. In the scene in Queen Christina where she walks around the room memorizing the room and her lover's presence in it. The final shot of Queen Christina when she's on the prow of the boat looking into her future. And her reputation rests on that myth of her intransigence, of her retreat, of her refusal to take part in this horrible commercial enterprise we call movies. She lives on in the culture as Garbo rather than as Camille, as Ninotchka.
There's one person that people, when you say star, the one word is Garbo.
She was the quintessential glamorous woman. No one has ever touched that. I don't think they ever will.